This child ran from one monster and sprinted straight into 100. And what happened to the beast that was chasing her is the last place you would ever expect this story to end. Today, we pull two Roblox nightmares into the same universe. The Forest of 99 Nights in the Forest and the Hotel of Doors. A lost child, the deer at her heels, and a door that was never supposed to exist. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel, drop a like, and comment which crossover you want to see next. Now turn off the lights, because this story begins in the dark. The forest breathed around him. Every snapping branch sounded like a footstep. Every shadow seemed to move the instant he looked away. The man ran between the trees, his torch almost dead in his hand, the last thread of fire trembling against the cold wind. It was the only thing keeping him alive, and he knew that better than anyone. He had come into that forest looking for someone. Missing children, shapes said to move between the trees. Now he was the one who needed to be found. Behind him, the thing was coming. It made no sound. That was the worst part of all. The deer did not growl. It did not stomp. It announced nothing. It simply appeared, too tall to be a man, its crooked, antlered head cut against the moon. It walked on two legs, like something that had learned to imitate people and never once gotten it right. He had already seen what it did to anyone who let their flame die. "I just have to reach the river," he whispered to himself, his voice cracking in the middle of the words. Just the river. But the river never came. In its place, between two trees he could swear he had never seen before, stood a door. A real door. Dark wood, set into nothing, no wall to hold it up. The brass handle glowed faintly, as if it were calling for him, and him alone. In that instant, the torch went out completely. The deer stopped pretending. He felt the air change behind him, the smell of old meat filling his nose, the heavy breath landing close to the back of his neck. There was no choice left. No river, no forest to save him. The man grabbed the freezing handle and stepped through. The door slammed behind him with a sound that belonged to no forest. Wood against wood, the echo of a closed hallway. When he opened his eyes, the floor beneath his feet was worn carpet. The walls were peeling wallpaper hanging in strips. Dim bulbs hummed above him, lit, and for one single second, that was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Light. So much light. He was standing in the hallway of a hotel that did not seem to end. That was when the first sign appeared. It was not a real voice. It was more of a glow, a small blue point that floated in front of his eyes and pulsed slowly over the handle of the next door. The man understood without knowing how. It wanted him to keep moving.
Huh?
"Where did I end up?" he asked the empty hallway. The glow did not answer with words. It just blinked, insistent, over the next door. The guiding light had found one more lost soul inside the hotel, and as it had done for so long, it began to point the way. The man obeyed. Door after door, the blue point led the way, lighting the right handle, closing the false ones, guiding every step through the maze. For a few minutes, he almost let himself feel safe. Then the bulbs began to flicker. All at once, from the end of the hallway to right beside him, a sharp hum climbed the walls, and the blue glow changed. Instead of pointing ahead, it darted toward a half-open closet and pulsed hard, urgent, screaming a single order in silence. Here, now, hide. The man threw himself into the closet 1 second before that thing tore past. It was only a blur, a thing of teeth and speed that ripped every bulb out of the hallway by the root and drowned everything in total darkness. Rush. He never even learned the name. He only felt the cutting wind of its passing and the burst of glass, one bulb after another, until the silence settled back in. In the cramped dark of the closet, the man understood a simple, horrible truth. He had run from one monster and straight into a house full of them. If you are enjoying the story so far, hit that like now, because this is where the two worlds truly collide. But the man had not come alone. Back there, at the first door, the wood creaked. The same handle he had turned began to turn again, slowly, on its own. The blue glow froze in the air, and for the first time since he had arrived, the entire hotel seemed to hold its breath. The door opened, and the deer stepped into the hallway. It did not fit. Its antlers scraped the ceiling and tore loose chunks of plaster. Its crooked head had to bend to pass through the frame. The predator of the forest, who knew only trees, wet earth, and open sky, was now crushed between 4 walls that reeked of mildew. And still it kept coming, sniffing the dead air, hunting the warmth of the only living thing in that place. The man, inside the closet, pressed both hands over his own mouth. That was when the hotel answered the intruder. In a room further ahead, behind a golden door, something enormous shifted, something blind that lived in the dark and saw the world only through sound. The deer's heavy steps, the scrape of antlers on the wall, the dull thud of every footfall, all of it was a feast of noise, and that creature hated noise in its territory. The golden door burst open. The figure dragged itself into the hallway, tall, pale, starving, turning its eyeless head exactly toward the sound. For one long moment, the deer and the figure stood face to face in the narrow hall. Two hunters who had never, in all their existence, shared the same world, each obeying a different rule. One hunted by scent and movement, the other only by sound. And they collided. The man did not see all of it, and maybe that was for the best. Through the crack in the closet, he caught only pieces. Antlers tearing something. A pale hand far too long, closing around a throat. A scream that was neither deer nor human. A sound he would hear in nightmares for the rest of his life. The walls shook with the impact. The shards of glass on the floor cracked under the weight of the two tangled monsters. And in the middle of all that chaos, the blue glow returned to him. Calm, cold. Pointing to the end of the hallway,
to a pair of elevator doors. The guiding light had a plan, and the man was part of it. He broke from the closet while the two monsters tore each other apart behind him and shot down the hallway, chasing the only point of light left in that world. The glow ran ahead, opening doors, closing others, pulling him always forward. Door 50, door 70, door 90. The hotel rearranged itself around him like a living maze, and in every room he crossed, he heard, behind him, the sound he dreaded most to hear again. Footsteps on two legs. The deer had won. Of course it had won. It always won. The figure was left behind, wounded or distracted by something else, and the predator of the forest went back to hunting the only prey that ever truly mattered to it. The man. Door 100. The glow led him into a wide, silent chamber, and there, the handle of an elevator lit up. The man slammed the button with both hands, his heart pounding against his chest. The doors began to open, slow, far too slow, while the footsteps behind him sped up one last time. And in that moment, he finally understood what the guiding light was doing. It was not a rescue. It was a trap. And he was the bait. The elevator opened just enough. The man jumped inside and spun around. The deer surged into the chamber, massive, ravenous, blind with pure hunger, charging straight at him, seeing nothing else around it. It was everything the guiding light needed. The instant the creature crossed the center of the room, the entire hotel lit up. Every bulb, every chandelier, every spark that still remained on that floor exploded into light all at once. The one thing the deer feared most in the world, the only weapon that had ever worked against it, now came from every direction at once. No forest to run to, no dark to dive into. The beast roared and recoiled, folding in on itself, its enormous hands covering its antlered head, trapped in the middle of a furnace of white light. The elevator doors closed. The last thing the man saw through the narrowing gap was the deer fallen to its knees right in the center of door 100, surrounded by light on every side, while the blue glow of the guiding light spun around it and drew an 8-pointed sigil in the air. A barrier, the same one that kept every entity of that hotel locked in the endless loop. The elevator descended. The man survived. In a certain way, he survived. Outside, the search took weeks. They were looking for him and for the children he had gone to save. They found the dead torch lying on the ground. They found footprints that simply vanished between two trees. And they found a door of dark wood set into nothing that not one of them had the courage to open. None of the lost ever came back because they were no longer in that world. And neither was the deer, because the forest, from that night on, fell silent. The monster that had terrorized those woods for so long had been dragged into a place where nothing ever escapes. Now it was just one more entity of the hotel, one more hunter locked in the same eternal loop, condemned to escape prey that never stops arriving, under a light that never goes out again. The man traded one nightmare for another, but for the first time in a long time, he had stopped running. And this is where the question lives. Did the guiding light save that man? Or did it just need bait good enough to finally capture a beast it had coveted for a very long time?
Maybe the hotel is not full of monsters by accident. Maybe all this time, it has only been collecting.